and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Mitchell punched by Uday. Mitchell able to get it back. Ripped away by MJ Rice. Brady Zip a three. Derek Lively the second in a whole different role. The steal by Isaiah Wong. And he throws it down with authority. 5-0 Miami. Isaiah Wong. And the follow by Miller. Holy cow. Miami's led by as many as 26. Poplar. Oh. The exclamation point on the night.
Good morning, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Happy to have you with us on this fine, beautiful Tuesday morning here in Omaha. 590 ESPN Omaha is what we are on. You can catch us 1480 ESPN Lincoln. We're live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube, despite the fact that DB's camera may or may not fall down at some point, but just like Humpty Dumpty, he'll get back up again.
Yeah, who dropped that line yesterday? Oh, Sam
McEwen.
All the king's horses and all the king's men. People really, really enjoy when we talk to Sam McEwen.
So do you. So do I.
Well, I do. But for me, it's selfish because it's totally selfish.
I think you're spot on.
Well, thank you. It's primarily because I consider him. It's almost like we definitely don't think the same, so it's not that. But I like the fact that he's like an emotional peer. Like I can ask, if I want to joke, I can joke. If I want to change gears quickly and be serious, he can be serious. Like he's got
a good variety.
He's very accommodating, and I can ask him hard questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know what I mean? He doesn't. I don't think he hangs up the phone and is like, "Golly, man, what a Richard head."
They beat me down.
I just think he
wouldn't come back the following week if that were the case.
He's just cool, and I think I don't know. I like the multiple perspectives. We got about 5-6 guys and gals I like. By the way, Shane, at some point, Cynthia Freeland has to come back just for laughs and giggles because we barely scratched the surface of her talents.
Yeah.
Are you guys going?
Yes.
Yeah, she's outstanding. And plus with, this week leading up to the Super Bowl, I wonder how busy she is.
So I'm convinced. Decided underdog or the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
The line tells me different, but hey, everybody is all in on the Philadelphia Eagles, which I'd like to say, but I wasn't right, that I was ahead of the game because I loved their roster a couple years ago and said that they were on the come. Didn't see this coming, though.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. About 2.5 weeks ago, right when the playoffs began, we said, hey,
playoffs?
Who is going to end up in the Super Bowl? Who were your two favorites?
San Francisco and Buffalo.
Shaner, do you remember your two favorites?
My two favorites were San Francisco and Kansas City.
And do you remember my two favorites?
Kansas City and Philadelphia.
I took the 1 seeds.
Yeah.
Because I said, is that a cop-out? Like, having the 1 seeds go there? I mean, I feel like that's
And I asked how often does that happen? You guys said Google it, but I don't need to Google it because it happens all the time, apparently.
I don't know. So
I don't know about all the time.
I didn't feel good. I definitely didn't feel good about Buffalo and said as much because
after that Miami game.
Well, I thought the seeds.
To.
Yeah, so I thought the seeds would end up, depending on what happened with San Francisco and Jacksonville. I thought Kansas City would have to play Cincinnati 1 round earlier, and so I took the path of the least resistance as opposed to who I had said out loud I thought the best team in the AFC was, because I thought all along the best team in the AFC was Kansas City. I just thought they'd have a tougher road to hoe.
Now, I mentioned to Mike Tanier yesterday, I'm like, wow.
Hey, he was pretty funny on Twitter yesterday. Did you check him out?
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, man, I haven't I haven't seen a lot of like beat down on the story, like beat the dead horse with Kelsey brothers and Jalen Hurts versus Mahomes. Well, no, I waited one day.
Yeah. Well, he said 4 hours and he nailed that.
Exactly, because right when they sat down on the row, it was like, hey, I got 2 questions for you.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah.
It was only those 2 questions, unless you were asking Nick Sirianni about if this was a must-win game.
So are you buying the whole Andy Reid slight thing, the chip? Come on, man. Stop.
What are we talking about? This was years ago, and you were a wide receivers coach. It's one thing if you were like the OC, and he comes in and he's just like, nope, you're not the guy. This guy.
I bet he's playing that up, though. But when you get to professionals and grown men and grown women, it doesn't fly.
I also call out our fellow journalists out there that are making it a bigger deal than it actually was in regards to how it was said.
Yeah. It's just business, man. It's business. Don't you think?
The NFL is all business.
So, first of all, hey, Shane, for another breakfast, would you take a picture in just your underwear?
Ooh. This is yes. New punishment. Speaking of punishments, our poll question today.
Anything for money.
Hey, here's our poll question because this is perfect. Because this would be a great punishment for it. I said, if any of the Coffee and Cream 3 participated in an episode of Impractical Jokers, who would you like to see punished in the end? Is it me, you, or Shane? I feel like that should be the punishment.
Hey, listen, do you have
That's a bunch of BS.
Have you bugged my phone lines? Are you on my Wi-Fi system? Are you watching my cameras? Anything?
All 3.
I just made fun of a child in our house. Not a child, a young man in our house. Because he has totally screwed up the YouTube library of what pops up on my
and it's Impractical Jokers
because it's Impractical Jokers. And yes, so this weekend I go, who is all it? This is exactly how I said it. Who keeps watching Practical Jokers? Get this off my library.
Have you sat down and watched that show from start to finish?
It was the guy who could, if he could be any character in a movie, picked Lightning McQueen. Okay.
My God.
Caleb.
No way.
Lightning McQueen.
He'd be Lightning McQueen.
He did like a walk the court with our boy, Max.
I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to call you out.
And
there.
Max, Micah would say something like Nelson Mandela.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. I'd like to be Morgan Freeman. He'd probably, Red and Shawshank.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Why, Micah? Oh, because he could get things. Anyway, man. So Impractical Jokers is on my library.
I love it. It makes me love Caleb even more.
It's not that funny.
It's a great show. Oh my God, you are so wrong. That show is so funny.
It's not
as funny anymore because Joe left, but it's so
not
funny.
That funny.
Oh my, you have a poor sense of humor, DB. That is so funny.
Look, poll question. Who's the funniest of the 3? Shane will win, but I guarantee I'll come in second.
I don't know.
He said I
don't know.
So I have a terrible sense of humor.
You don't have to be funny to know humor.
Oh, who was that yesterday on my timeline getting into it?
Probably a multitude of people.
So I have to go back and scroll, but it was the age-old discussion of do you have to play something to be able to critique it? And inevitably, you get do you have to be a chef to know what a good steak tastes like?
You know what? I did see that because somebody said, well, do you own a steakhouse? And the guy was like,
that?
Oh, what was he critiquing?
I can't even remember.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
But Twitter was funny yesterday. So I thought you were messing with me. When I saw the picture of The Secret scroll across my timeline,
that was insane.
I thought you were messing with me. Then I read Matt Schick's tweet, and I was like, is he joking? Because I use Secret.
Well, and that's why I laughed.
Oh, I know.
I saw it, and I thought it was you at first. And I'm like, you're kidding. This guy has some nerve to put this on social media. And then I was like, Matt Schick? Oh, no, please no.
And he made it seem like gun to head he had to take it.
Yeah, because he forgot his deodorant, and I believe that's the one he just got from the hotel.
No, I think he said Walgreens.
Oh, out of the baskets
or something like that.
Yeah,
but by the way, I've tried those travel size deodorants.
Not good.
They're like 2 rubs.
Well, and they're not. I prefer something with a little more like length.
Because you have to hold it real close. And you're like, jabbing your armpit with your knuckles.
Well, not only that, just the side of the deodorant.
Yeah, I get it. You're like, ooh, I think I scraped my armpit. No, but I'm team. I'm team Secret. Like he had to get it in a pinch, right?
Went to the front desk and asked if they had any. They only had one kind left, so he got it at the front desk.
Oh yeah, at the hotel.
Yep.
But guess what? Remember, so
Secret Powder Fresh.
So that's the. Jam.
I don't think you ever wanted people to know you use Secret.
No.
and now you just kind of just openly
because
said.
I couldn't remember if it was on air or not.
First it's Flowery Bath and Body Works. Now it's Secret.
It's
Are you
not
telling me
it's
something?
not
BB?
flowery.
What is it called again? What was the Bath and Body Works?
I can't remember now. I gotta ask Coach Will Height. But my man, remember I told you this guy that I liked this guy a long time ago. TK.
Yeah.
Kilpatrick. So guess what he responded to me with on Twitter? He said, "Oh yeah, Secret is the way to go. No aluminum.
Oh yeah, no aluminum.
What did I show you yesterday on the website that
no
I buy?
Aluminum.
No aluminum
Free. And once somebody
else
Let's
go,
it,
TK.
I mean, it's like Groundhog Day now. I feel like we're reliving.
By the way, that was just on the other day. That's an overrated show.
Movie.
My mom loves Bill Murray though.
Well, and Groundhog Day does take place with Punxsutawney Phil, so it doesn't shock me that it was on the other day.
That's where they got him from.
Well, I don't know if they got him from that movie.
Was he Punxsutawney Phil in the movie? Shane?
Right there.
Probably. He's been that way for
probably
150 years or whatever.
Hey, side note, Trent Dilfer was the discussion.
Oh,
because it says, you know what my favorite tweets are? Radio hosts going after NFL players for their takes when they themselves have never attempted an NFL pass.
Yeah. And then, but did you? The thread was wild.
Yeah. Well, hey, Greg, have you ever owned a steakhouse? Like that's the comment. I remember.
That's what it was. It was my man Nick. It was Gregeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it was.
Because I knew it was somebody that I follow, and I was like, where is this going? So then I had to back out, and I don't know. It's such a.
I mean, to have an opinion, you have to play the game. Like, come on.
The discussion happens quite a bit.
Like, I feel like I'm a meat connoisseur. I feel like I can hold my own on a grill, but that doesn't mean that
You're the barbecue expert.
Yeah, I'm like the chef.
And it's so weird too because food is one of those things you can't get any more specific because everybody has their own individual palate. So if you can universally find something that people like, hey man, good on you.
Everybody.
I mean, because for the millions of people that like medium rare, there's another million that like don't. So it's like
that need it mooing.
So it's like
I'm one of them. I like
barbecue
mooing.
sauce, no barbecue sauce. Although the texture on the scallops, I got to fight you over.
Are you? Well, we had that conversation. It was
with
on there a little bit too long.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you. As somebody that will get scallops 7 out of 10 times, I think I'm at a good place and they're on the menu. I'm with you. I was not going to give you a hard time.
The ones who like their steak medium rare, they seem to be most boisterous about it.
How would you know?
How do you like your steak?
Done.
What are you, 80?
See, right there. Well, how do you like your steak?
Rare.
See, the rare and the medium rare people are the
most.
No.
So I know what I think he's saying. He's saying
he likes hamburgers.
People that say done or brown are often the most chastised.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because you're agree taking with one of the best cuts of meat.
I agree with you.
And you are just cooking it to hell.
Because
that's all you're doing.
People
so what's your point?
People that don't eat their steaks well done.
You like rocks. You're eating hockey pucks.
That's totally.
I just don't think people that like it any other way can even fathom why you would want that. Mm-mm. So Shane, no pink for you.
Because why would you order a $15 piece of meat? Let's just say
I usually don't.
You could have gotten a $2 hamburger
Shane's
from the
not
store.
Paying $15.
I usually don't order steak.
Yeah, that's true. You don't.
What do you normally get? What if you went to a fancy restaurant? What are you getting?
He's going with salmon.
Yeah, I'm
Chicken
going with like a
strips?
salmon or some type of fish.
Yeah.
Probably first.
I love salmon though.
I'm a salmon guy.
Did I tell you about the big old chunk that I got at Costco?
Yeah, you did because you chopped it up,
$30.
cooked it for dinner for like 50 people or something. Oh wait, no.
Si, senor.
Sorry, it was only your family.
So back 50 people. think I would have 50 people at my house.
Ever? Do you think 50 people could fit comfortably in your house, though? I don't.
I don't worry about their comfort. If you want to come, that's on you.
Hey, sorry, that corner over there is where you're standing.
Selfish.
I mean, they're
Your
making
deck, though, could fit 50 people.
Yeah, they're making a choice. It's on them.
But what if you don't have a seat because of it?
I'd leave gladly.
Hey, guys, just lock up whenever you leave.
God is my witness. That's exactly what I would say. I mean, because I would try. I mean, it's whatever.
I wouldn't be able to leave if there were 50 people in my house.
Really?
I would. I'm too OCD. I would think you're too OCD to allow that.
I'll figure it out when I get back.
Oh, not me.
No?
I don't want to figure something out.
So you're going to micromanage on the fly? Are you the host that will run around and wipe off tables and like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places?
No, but my mom is.
Who been putting out the coals on my carpet? I wouldn't say it like that, though.
You wouldn't?
Nah. Hey, man, you served too? Where were you in? Give me a yang. I can see. All right. Let's stop.
Should we reel it back in?
So I do think, how about how they changed Billy Ray Valentine to just William? There's nothing more prim and proper than William. William.
Well, when you get to a certain age, you can't be Billy Ray anymore.
So I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. They were talking about
when do you upgrade your nickname? Is that I'm sorry. I'm getting you in a different area of thought.
So have you've gone by Andrew your whole life? You'll never be Andy. You'll never be Drew.
Andy, no. Sorry.
Traumatized by Toy Story?
No, like not to knock Andy's. Like if you imagine me,
on the shelf?
if you were called Uncle Andy, what would people think?
Uncle Andy. I don't know. No disrespect to any Andys
people
out
would
there.
think that you probably could be a criminal.
Oh, I work with an Andy. He's fantastic at his job.
I love Andy Kendi.
Well, him too. I was thinking of Wayne, assistant principal at
Brady?
Westside. I'm not a Wayne Brady guy.
You aren't? You don't want to play Let's Make a Deal?
I mean, I'm sure we could probably hang out. I don't know where we would go together, though. You know, I don't know if we could, we'd frequent the same places. I don't know.
Anyway,
He
when
seems
do you
like
upgrade?
the type of people that likes to talk out in public.
When do you upgrade a nickname?
You upgrade, I don't know, when you
what
start
age?
paying taxes?
Really? That early?
Yeah. Andrew. So you're going to be Andrew your whole life?
Yes. So I grew up. Well, I didn't grow up. In high school, I had a really good friend named Becca. But when she got to college, she went with Rebecca. But I also know other people that have been like Timmy and then just went to Tim.
Yeah. We've had this conversation, Shane. I don't know. I just feel, I think it'll feel right. Can I get back to
Yeah,
something real
sorry.
quick?
I went off the beaten path.
No, I'm curious, though, because with the whole chef cook thing, having played, not played thing, does that just elicit like automatic eye rolls? Because I think, and with what we do, and I watched it unfold yesterday, and I think it's the underlying tone with Stephen A. Smith and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving gets so frustrated with Stephen A. because he has all these strong opinions. And I think Jay Will struggles with the fact that Stephen A. hasn't been through it. Not to say that he wasn't a decent college basketball player, because Stephen A. Smith will tell you that he was, even though he really wasn't.
Kind of like Skip Bayless.
But do you have to be? Because I think that's where the level of frustration, he's like, I think sometimes like Jay Will just wants to say, you don't understand. Like, and Stephen A. just wanted him to have an opinion. Jay Will wanted to tell him, gosh, I'd love to have an opinion, but I'd like to base it on some deductive reasoning here, some context clues, brother. Stephen A. was like, well, you're paid to have an opinion. Have an opinion. I've made Stephen A. is like one of the biggest personalities on the 4-letter network, and he's right about 61% of the time. Doesn't matter because he has strong opinions.
Right.
Now, I'm not a Stephen A. guy.
Nor am I.
But I've told you about this athlete on athlete crime that I've seen on social media. Shannon Sharp and Skip made it famous. I don't think it was scripted. These guys are I think they really got into it yesterday because Jason Williams is kind of like the black sheep. No pun intended. He has the philosophical takes. He and probably Richard Jefferson, I would say. And RJ's kind of out of a jobby job.
Yeah, a little bit.
But everybody else is just kind of more knee-jerky. So I feel like he's constantly getting, because he tries to think of things from a more topical level. And when you're talking about Kyrie Irving, you can't just scratch the surface with his antics.
To a degree, I understand both viewpoints. Like, one, if you play the sport, you are going to know the ins and out of everything that kind of happens with the sport. Meanwhile, if you only cover the sport, like, how much do you know about what happens inside the film room, inside the weight room? Like, I could tell you how it looks on the football field.
Yeah.
But that's because you go to the football game, you watch the football game, you have a different pair of eyes versus, hey, I played the game. I know when the tight end should sit in the zone versus get to the sideline and man camp, whatever it is. So for me, like, basketball would be the easiest comparison because I played high school basketball. Mm-hmm. Why would that mean I can't talk about college basketball because I didn't play college basketball? Well, I mean, it's not all that different. Maybe a little more structure in high school basketball because you're running more plays versus in college, you just have like a lot of moving around and you're trying to find the holes, and then each player is kind of playing with each other that way. Aren't a lot of set plays unless you're doing an inbounds play. But aside from all of that, that shouldn't take away credibility from somebody that didn't play the game.
I think I always worry about, I wouldn't say worry, I used to. And I got called on it early on in my media career. So I'm not like that anymore. But I always used to worry about not wanting to alienate people. Right? So contrary to popular belief, my vocabulary is what it is. But, I don't want to talk over your head. I don't want to, like, if we're not prepared to talk about pin downs and ball screens and icing a ball screen or drop coverage or whatever, like if we're talking about hoops or, so, just generic stuff like, hey, he's running it in on his hands, or, man, listen, the Revolutions, that's how he's getting that good break, or the snap. I don't want to do that, right? Football's easy, so I'm not using that as an example, but because I think sometimes you lose people in conversations, and that's not really what it's about. Mm-hmm. But I do, and it's funny you talk about it because it's interesting with this whole Iowa thing. Fans care way more about getting into Brian Ferentz' contract, way more than a coach ever would.
Yep.
Than a player ever would. But I understand, because I said this a long time ago. I think Severe taught me this like early in the 2000s. He's like, man, I just don't want to get in the habit of teaching people how to tell people how to be fans. Right? Like, I don't, because that's what makes them unique. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes them fun. That's what makes this thing go. So I don't want to tell people how to be fans. I don't want to say you can and can't do this, or that you're just a fan. That's not my jam, right? Like, I understand, because we need those people. But the carving and going through that contract, I thought was fascinating, because you know who couldn't care less? Matt Rule. Mm-hmm. You know who couldn't care less? Brian Ferentz. You know who couldn't care less? PJ Fleck. Right?
I think it's interesting to talk about, though.
It is. That's where I draw the line, right. Man. I'm like, ooh, 25 points a game.
And maybe we'll talk about that next.
Uh-oh. Did I do that? Did I do that?
Hey, good tease.
Fudge.
Stick around. More coffee and cream coming your way.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. He's Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers. And yes, Andy Compton, I see you on YouTube. I'm going to leave your comment with what's the matter with Andy Rogers at that. I love it. I love it.
Hey, Andy.
And why? Thanks for tuning into the show. We love having you here with us. We're on 590 ESPN Omaha, 1480 ESPN Lincoln. We're live on Twitter.
Hey,
we're live on YouTube. And I am drinking the official coffee of Coffee and Cream currently. That is coffee from the Beanery. And let's
Coffee
just say
in the morning.
I have Beanery almost every day now, and boy, do I feel good waking up in the morning
Well,
at
I think
5
it helps that it's
having
not
this
far
bad
from
boy
us.
with me. Oh, yeah, 4 locations throughout the metro. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
4 locations just entirely. That's Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and the new one that they opened up in October off of 168th and Giles.
Or Annex and everybody, aren't we? We can count.
Guess what their slogan is? It's my favorite. Take a guess on what the Beanery slogan is, because I know you don't know it, so that's why I'm asking you.
That's like the whole analogy that I gave you about the wrong email address or phone number. Like,
you have no chance.
I have no chance.
Serving people coffee. Bang.
That's it?
That's it. Simple, to the point.
Wait, they're a sponsor, right?
They are.
Oh, well, good for you. Great slogan. Great
locally
slogan.
Owned, locally operated, and we love local. Hey, I was just thinking in the break, too, when we were talking about our previous conversation about did you play it, did you not? How many people in the world, take the population of sports fans, how many people played the sport? Give me a percentage.
Oh, it's not even 10.
Like 5%, we'll just say. Yeah. And that may be generous. 95% of people did not play the sport. Fans like to surround themselves with like-minded individuals. They like to have people next to them that think like them.
Are you sure?
I do. I do, because there is that case of, hey, I want that inside knowledge, like somebody that's been there, done that. They want that. But when they craft an opinion, a lot of times they think like somebody that didn't play the game. So that's why I don't think that argument ever stands or will ever hold ground, because the majority of people did not do it. So they think like another person that did not do it. So if they're listening to me, they're like, hey, that's me. I didn't play it, but I can sit down and watch it and think like, why did they run an onside kick when it seemed like everybody wanted them to either squib it or kick it out of the back of the end zone and make them go 80 yards, versus you who may be sitting here saying like, hey, there's a lot of strategy to that onside kick, and here's why. You break down it with the times and things like that.
You know what bothers me probably more? Because it doesn't really bother me if somebody hasn't played, because kind of what makes me I like conversation, right? So I'll just gauge the conversation, and if it's quality, then it's fine. At no point do I ever think he or she hasn't played before.
And how often do people agree?
I just worry about quality conversation.
How often do people agree if I said, hey, I played quarterback and you played running back? I would say something, you'd be like, yeah, I agree with that. And then you would just kind of expand on it. And, oh, yeah, I'd agree with that. And you'd expand on it, versus I say something and you're like, well, like, is that the case? Like, here's my perspective.
That doesn't bother me near as much as the guy or gal that says they played. So then that's the only way to look at it.
That's the end all.
Like, like if I'm being 100% honest, because it's like, when people call 888-638-4876. I've worked with people that like to take calls. I've worked with people that don't like to take calls. I've had bosses that said, hey, Shane, you can attest to this. Be a little bit better at screening calls. One early dumb call can lead to multiple dumb calls. One good call can lead. So, I've seen it. There's multiple ways to skin a cat, but I'm always trying to figure out if I can learn something. So I'm probably going to listen at least for a little while.
I can attest to this.
Right?
Working with you for the last 10 years?
Yeah.
I've never heard you say, well, I ran the ball. I was a running back.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't play that card.
I don't do that.
And also DB's so well-rounded, because he not only played, but he coached, and he's a father of a player. So you have the three-headed monster right there, that you don't have to play a certain card.
Yeah,
because your strength is not in your playing area. I would venture to say your strength's in your coaching area.
Yeah, but probably more so. That's why I like to talk hoops. That's why, and I think Nick and I hit it off really well early, just because I like to talk basketball. I feel like I've been around it now for almost 20 years. And two of my good friends are coaches. So we talk, I watch, I listen, I learn. Like who are some of my favorites? Brad Feakin, Josh Lukey, Jim Simons, Alvin Mitchell. Like these are guys. Like if I want to know, like I was joking with Alex Baugh about, we sat for 40 minutes one day and talked about why he doesn't love ball screens. This was 7 years ago. I'll never forget.
And it still gets brought up today.
Because I'll never forget that conversation. Because what is 80% of basketball used today? Ball screens. So I remember that sticking out in my head. And he could have easily said, "Oh, you didn't play past high school. Why do you care about?" He just knows that I like to learn.
But nobody ever thinks like that either. Like I venture to say,
social media is bad at that.
But
though.
More times than not, isn't it a fan that says like, "Hey, you didn't play the sport, so like, why can you say like?"
No, because yes and no. But here's why though. Because you know what you've seen now. What did Micah Parsons just say on Twitter the other day?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Micah Parsons was one of those few athletes that was like, "Hey, man, all these people that sit around and have never played have all these opinions." And he's not the first. Excuse me. Somebody else just said it the other day. Kevin Durant is notorious for going there.
Yeah, there are a few athletes that's
he kills
they die on.
Yeah, he kills Stephen A. because he doesn't think Stephen A. is qualified, right? So there are some, to me, because that screams, it just goes against, because I like to think I'm a lifelong learner. There are people that I follow that I do not like. I just know, there's a couple that come to mind. I just know they think differently than me. So I always try to find, selfishly, angles to arm myself with more information should it ever be confrontational.
As you should. Expand your view.
That's the coach in me. Like that would be like me saying, why would I watch huddle on the opponent, right? Like we do what we do. No, do you know why I watch a lot of film, even in hoops, right? All the these games, because I want to know how people are trying to attack me. The more that I know how people are trying to attack me, and it could be in discussion too. That's why I read articles from people I don't necessarily like, because sometimes they make good points. Like why would I, why would I stymie my own growth just because I don't like somebody, right?
Well, that gets you.
It drives my sister crazy.
That gets you completely one-sided, and that's why
I don't know if I want to be like that.
But you get separated. Like that's why the world can never come together. Because there's never somebody that can they want to look at both. They want to look at one because they like one. And so they stick with one, whether that's a sports point of view, whether that's a political point of view, whether that's, your everyday life view. You have routines. We're creatures of habit. You like the things that you like and you stick with that. I would find you to be like a rare flower to say like, hey, I'm going to kind of read something that I don't like, whether it makes me sick to my stomach or not based on the take,
I do it
whatever it is.
My barber, I told this story before. Yes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 televisions. The one over here is almost never on because the other barber that's in there doesn't come in until later in the day. So those 2 TVs aren't on. But these first 3, they're almost always on something different, right? One could be on
ESPN.
One could be on Courtroom TV. This one could be on Fox. The next day, this one will still be on Courtroom TV. That's his jam. This one may be on CNN, and this one may be on the Music Channel. Because as
Injury Court?
No, because as a barber, when you see so many different walks of life,
sure,
he likes to be well-rounded in his conversation. And much like my man Shane, he likes his steaks dirt brown too.
Hey, somebody we do like and somebody we do like reading.
He's a good man.
Is Scott Docterman, and we'll talk about his article on Brian Ferentz next.
Okay.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers, and we're happy to have you with us on the show today. Are you having a good day? Is your day hard? Do you need something to wind down with after the day's over already? Well, hey, Acres Ale is the drink for you. Brewed with Nebraska corn, crisp and clean with that light, refreshing flavor. I had one last Friday, and boy, was it tasty as I was watching the NHL skills competition. It's locally brewed. It's the perfect beer to just pair your evening with, your dinner with, whatever it is. At the end of your workday, check out Acres Ale, and I'm telling you, you won't go wrong. Something else you won't go wrong with is following Scott Docterman on Twitter, because no matter what, it seems that if you work or write for Iowa football, you'll get a lot of traction just in regular conversation. And yesterday, Docterman tweeted out the new stipulations for Brian Ferentz's contract, which are as such: $850,000 of salary, which is down $50K from 2022. But his performance objectives really got people talking on social media. And it started with, you have to average at least 25 points per game. And then it pretty much ended with, you have to win 7 games, a minimum of 7 games, which, based on what you saw from last season, doesn't initially seem reasonable. And that's what I texted you yesterday. I'm like, this doesn't seem realistic. However, when you go back and you look at the previous seasons, from 2015 to 2020, Iowa averaged 25 plus points per game. So it's possible for this team to actually do that. And I would say achievable is probably the better term, because it's not just offensive points, defensive and special teams.
That's how they do scoring.
Factored in to the scoring there. But I think what still grinds people's gears is the fact that Kirk Ferentz still can't answer the question about his son of, hey, what does Brian Ferentz do well that the fans don't see? Because what the fans do see is the product on the field. And whenever Kirk Ferentz takes the podium, it's always, hey, our coordinators do such a good job. But they're looking for insight on, why is Brian Ferentz the guy outside of the fact that he's your son? What is he doing that we don't see? And that's something that has left an uneasy feeling for that fan base.
First of all, do you feel that breeze?
It's nice.
I feel like I have the chills.
Ooh. Hopefully you're not sick.
No. Never. Let me ask you something.
Vitamins?
Because I've thought about this. Okay? You teed this up nicely. I used to have these conversations with a couple of previous staffs. Got a chance to know them real well. One I actually just knew anyway, so that was easy. How do you feel about what coaches or people in positions of influence or decision makers, what do they owe in terms of explanation to their constituents or to the fan base? Because one guy, there were two in particular. I'll just take Coach Pelini, Coach Frost. Different mindsets, but both wanted to get into why former players said this or did this or acted this way, whatever it was, and the fans' reaction to certain things that they did. And sometimes I think it's interesting. Lions typically don't seek the opinions of sheep, right? They just don't. They think like lions. So where do you draw the line between chasing ghosts or explaining your every move versus being in a position of leadership where it's because you said so and it's what you believe, and that you shouldn't be not really privy to that information not because you're not good enough, but because you're not here on the day-to-day.
Fans fans are seeking performance, right? And I'm not saying winning games, because I know that's of course what you want, but fans want offense. They want to get excited. They want to see the big play. They want to see a lot of points. They want to be a part of something that's high scoring. Now, that's not the Big Ten. That's also not Iowa most of the time. But when you score 7 points against South Dakota State to open the year, fans don't normally get excited about that when defense was the only reason you got 7 points.
Man.
Flexing a little bit. Just feeling good. And I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. You won't win games when this conference disbands, or when the conferences disband from one another without the offense.
You talking about divisions?
Yes. I'm sorry. The divisions, whenever they disband. You just won't. The odd storyline to carry with you into the season, though, is, hey, is Brian Ferentz going to live up to this? Hey, is that? Versus, hey, Drew, can Iowa be that good team? Go ahead, interject.
Can I say Drew now?
Yeah.
I feel like I say Andrew now.
No. I like nicknames that aren't ending in Y.
WWBD. What would Barry do? Would Barry be okay if I say Drew Down?
Mm-hmm.
Or would he like for me to call you Andrew?
Yes, sir.
That's what he wants me to say? Barry's buttoned up, isn't he?
I will always address my father with the proper
props to. I'm telling you, I knew it. I knew it sounded like a cool name.
Barry?
I told you, Barry Rogers. All right.
Now that I'm older, though, we give him a hard time.
Would you say what's up, B?
If he heard me come in and say what's up, B, he'd be like, all right, that can stop right now. He'd be like, go back to just calling me by my real name, Barry.
I told you he sounded like Captain America.
No, he would be like, it's Dad.
Yeah.
It's Dad.
Wow. No wonder you're so buttoned up. Is your mom the lax one? Because she seems cool too.
They're both cool.
Yeah. Just you got the rock and you got the lover, right?
Totally.
Okay. That's
totally.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
You're just chiseling away in our family.
Right? I love it though, because we're the exact same way. Totally. My dad would wake up and he'd say about 7 words a day. And my mom could decipher them for us.
Same. So I would, and I know we're getting off the real fast. I will text my dad if it has something to do with my car, like my house, or if I needed money. Right? I will text my mom if I'm looking for some type of love.
That is awesome. Yeah. All right, so let me
maybe money too. My mom could handle the money thing too.
So let me go back to this though, because we want that pound of flesh, and I'm not a pound of flesh guy. I'm just not. Mm-hmm. Right? I think some of it is coming through my own trials, being flawed. Some of that is my growth and maturation, right? That's not up to me. I'm not the judge. That is for somebody else to take care of. So there's part of that. But do we want it all? Do we want it all the ways all the time? Because I like consistency. So if you want your pound of flesh for, let's say, Brian Ferentz in that contract, right? Because he can actually get an extension if he hits those metrics. He can get the money back if he hits those metrics. Like there's a lot of things.
He'll keep his job if he keeps.
There's a lot of things.
Those metrics.
But we didn't. Maybe we did, but we didn't. We never at any point said, and I think I was the first one to say it only because I knew it, because I know the players, right? Should Matt Rule have said, hey, you know what? This is why we're bringing Donovan Raiola back. Oh, but hey, man, what? Wait, what? He's bringing Donovan Raiola back? What?
Do you think
that was so quiet?
Do you think people didn't react like that though because the O-line started to get better versus Iowa's
don't get
offense?
Not that much credit. Okay. Some people. I'm with you. Good point. Some people saw the progression of the offensive line, but what did I say early? Mm-hmm. Hey, man, the players wanted him back, so guess what? That's good enough for me. I didn't get into all that. People would ask me about him all the time, and I'd simply say, hey, I don't know enough. I don't know enough.
Well, it seems like
the times that I'm around him, he's good to me. He's funny. I like him, right? Because as you know about me, super loyal in terms of if you're for me, I'll do whatever you ask, right? If you're not, there's just zero little interaction, right? So I've always liked Raiola, always. But we didn't want an explanation, or we didn't have courage enough to ask for an explanation. We just were like, hey, that's the coach's decision. Go with it. Performance year one, maybe didn't measure up. Maybe we don't know. We chastised, we vilified, we talked crazy about the offensive line. Nobody gave us an explanation. We just went on about our way. So why, when it comes to this, are we so... Would we have wanted it the other way? Would we have listen, you probably should give Kirk Ferentz some props.
Is it because
for making it for the divulging? And I guess you can ask for the contract stipulations, but they've gone through the details. Kirk Ferentz put his own son out there, and hear my heart. I'm not trying to validate what I was doing. What I'm telling you is, we can't be hypocritical. Iowa extremely transparent on why they did, and you can say, oh, it's a matter of public records. You can look at the the contract, but they like wanted their pound of flesh. We don't do that here. Nobody in the media was like, "Hey, why are you bringing back such and such? Hey, why did you hire such and such? Hey, what did you see when you like?" We don't do that.
I think there's separation though when it comes with Raiola and Ferentz. That Ferentz has been there.
I only give that as an example because
I know what you're saying. I'm completely there.
I just don't like the hypocrisy of it.
I understand exactly what you're saying. But just is there a difference though when you're talking offensive coordinator and O-line, because OC is technically like a step up in position.
Yeah, but guess what?
Area.
Though? He's worked with the O-line. He's worked with the tight ends. Maybe it's his well-roundedness. What if all of a sudden he gets a quarter? No, you know what I mean?
I'm with you. Now, if you were to move on, this would have been the year to do it, though, because you are changing a lot of pieces in that offense.
Although, Drew Down, there's no more excuses.
Yep.
It's the same thing I said about bringing Coach Frost back last year.
And that's why they set the expectation there. Let's talk AP Top 25 next with John Fanta.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
On a Sunday in the metropolitan area, we are coming to you from Newark, New Jersey for a Big East matinee as the Seton Hall Pirates welcome in the DePaul Blue Demons. Great to have you with us, everybody. I'm John Fanta. He's my partner, Vin Parisi, and welcome to The Rock. One-hand jam for Nelson. Hello, DePaul. Nelson, my goodness gracious. Hammer time for Deshaun Nelson. The Seton Hall Pirates have won 8 of their last 10 games, and they're getting on the radar in the NCAA tournament conversation.
Prepared to hear more of that voice now. It's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, and let's welcome in our guest. He's a good friend. He is one of the brightest college basketball minds out there. He's one of the funniest people to converse with. It's John. And John, did I hear Fanti? Is that really how you pronounce your last name, Fanti?
Fanti? No, just Fanta.
Okay, I don't know if
maybe
I heard.
Maybe that's a pack of me, I guess.
Yeah, well, I heard when that call went down, it sounded like you said Fanti, not Fanta. And I looked at DB, I go, "Is it Fanti? Have we been saying it wrong?"
Sometimes you know that.
It's Fanta. It's
like
Fanta.
the soda.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, man.
John, how are you? So, did you get your fill last night? The whole Kansas-Texas thing, how was that game not a microcosm of exactly who those two teams are and what they need to do better as Kansas survives to play for meaningful games late in March?
Yeah, it really was a microcosm. And I thought that Texas coming off of the game on Saturday at Kansas State, really tough to then come back on Big Monday and have to play at Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, the schedule makers did them no favors. You go from the Octagon to Fog Allen. But I thought in this game, we saw what the key is for Kansas. The key for Kansas is complementary scoring in addition to Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson has a night where he didn't score much. I mean, he had 2 points. So to me, this was encouraging for Kansas because on Saturday at Iowa State, it was all Wilson, and he didn't get any help. Grady Dick is the most important player for Kansas, in my opinion. The freshman just opens up something for them offensively. He's a shot maker. He just makes things happen for them. DeJuan Harris with 17 points in this game. When Harris scores in double figures, Kansas has won over 80% of the time. I mean, they win when he is scoring the basketball well. And Kevin McCullough delivered. So for Kansas, their supporting cast has been up and down, and that's why I think, Damon, you make up a great point. For Texas, look, on a night where Marcus Carr goes for 29 points, you would have sat there and said, yeah, they're going to have a chance. They're going to have a real chance to win. And they played hard. They played well. But they have typically been a very good defensive team. Last night we saw great offense beats great defense. And Kansas got clicking. Kansas showed us why people think that they can be a Final Four team. It's been inconsistent. But then again, guys, who hasn't been inconsistent to a degree in this sport across the country? You don't know what you're getting from night to night.
Hey, that's a great point there, John. Stay right there because, I mean, it is absolutely nuts knowing that Selection Sunday is, a month away, a little over a month away. And you say exactly what you just said. You can't get a gauge on this field, and it couldn't be more wide open. Say you were filling out your bracket today. Is there a team above all others that you would be comfortable penciling in as your NCAA champion?
Yes. It's Alabama.
Wow. And why is that?
Well, they're 10-0 in the SEC, and they've won 9 of the 10 SEC games by double figures. I think they just had a clunker at Oklahoma. I'm going to chalk it up to it just wasn't their day. But, man, Brandon Miller is going to hear his name very, very early in Brooklyn in June at the NBA draft. But yet he's embracing this ride right now. Nate Oates has a team that with Noah Clowney, what he's been able to add to the fold, and then their backcourt. I mean, they've got a transfer in Mark Sears, who's been a stabilizer. They've got the explosive presence of Javon Quinterly. He makes things happen. Once upon a time, a Villanova Wildcat.
Oh, everything right until he took to IG early and his coach's tenure at Nova. Jay Wright was having none of it.
Yeah. IG and Villanova basketball don't go together. Okay? They do not go together. That'd be like putting me that'd be like putting me at the Victoria's Secret runway.
Hey, I don't know. Don't sell yourself short now, John. We saw what Tom Brady did on Twitter yesterday.
Don't sell myself short, Andrew. You trying to go out of business? Come on. The thing is, they've got a good team. They've got a really good team. They're solid defensively, and they just come at you. I mean, they come at you in waves. Their perimeter shot making is impressive. I just look at the way the SEC is a really good league. I mean, Tennessee is a great team. To me, Auburn's still a really good team that actually gets Alabama this week. Kentucky's been underwhelming, but they still have the National Player of the Year from last year. And to me, I just look at the way that Auburn has dominated, not led the conference. They've totally dominated a conference that's got some quality teams. Missouri's had a really nice year. Arkansas is still a force. Texas A&M has won 8 of 10 in the SEC. Interesting bubble team, actually. So I'm super impressed with Alabama, and they're a team that I would be comfortable. I'd be comfortable taking to win it all because I've just watched them be a buzzsaw save a game at Oklahoma.
Interesting you mentioned Kentucky because with Case and Wallace now handling the ball a little bit more, maybe they solve some of their issues at the point guard spot or as a primary ball handler spot. But so let me take Kentucky out of it. Of teams that we think have a lot of components to go far, Kansas, Tennessee, Gonzaga, UConn. I'll give you those 4 teams, Kansas, Tennessee, Gonzaga, UConn. Which of those teams, if you give them consistency at the point and they get good play, has the chance to go the furthest? Because I think all 4 of those teams have questions in the backcourt at the point guard spot.
Yeah, they do. And Gonzaga has tons of questions there. And that's what led them to losing to St. Mary's on Saturday. And how about this? St. Mary's.
That's 12 in a row.
Has a 2-game lead in the West Coast Conference.
Yeah.
Gonzaga has not lost the WCC. I read since 2012. They've been dominant in it. For me, the team that you bring up, when you bring up those 4 teams, well, Tristan Newton's actually played well for UConn. They've got other issues right now with Andre Jackson just being off from the floor, with Donovan Clingan sort of having that freshman drop-off that you sometimes see, and they come and go. I think the team is Tennessee. I really do. Tennessee they play an ugly style. I mean, that Saturday game against Auburn where they win 46-43, hey, and won the game. I thought that was a foul at the end that they missed. But fellas, like for a team that's that good defensively, for a team that's got Olivier Camwa and Josiah Jordan-James, and both of them just make things happen. They're both great on the glass. They both are physical. Tennessee is physical as hell. I mean, they really get up in you and guard. But Zakai Ziegler goes 0 for 10 in this game. Santiago Vescovi was really a non-factor. That guard duo has too many ups and downs on the offensive end of the floor for you to trust them to win 6 games. And that's the thing this year. There's so much inconsistency. You sit there saying, who is going to win 6 consecutive games? Tennessee, to me, offensively, they're too up and down. But if you told me that they would have guard play throughout the NCAA tournament, I'd feel a heck of a lot more comfortable with picking them. There's no question about it.
Hey, John, let's do something fun here because we had a listener question come through on Twitter, and I purposely saved it for you because I thought we could have a good conversation. This isn't just a question for you. I want DB to chime in, and I want to chime in myself. But here's the question. With this crazy college basketball season and what seems to be the most wide open field, today, who are you placing all your money on to win it all? And then who is your dark horse, a 5 or higher seed, or technically wouldn't lower seed, to possibly win it all? I'll start with you, John.
Question. Let's see here because I'm going to take a look. I'm pulling up my bracket projection here, the composite of everything. So I'm going to start by answering who's the 5 or the lower.
Got it.
You asked who's the 5. Who's the 5 or the lower? And I'm scanning here, looking across the board at a 5 or lower who could do it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that there's something to be said, and I know it's a team from the Big Ten, but I would not be surprised if Illinois got scalding hot in March. You know, I really wouldn't. Well, Damon, you seem to agree.
Yeah, I do.
Mine's another Big Ten.
We just talked yesterday with one of our beat writers locally, and he actually thinks Illinois is the second best team in the Big Ten.
On their best day, I would.
When all things are clicking. Mm-hmm. So that was fresh on my mind because they've got a bucket getter in Shannon. I like Dane Danger. Meyer can shoot it well enough. Like, they have a lot of pieces, but they have Brett Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me a little pause.
Yeah, exactly. That gives you a little pause. But again, this might be the year where it comes to fruition just because there's just such an openness to it. So I got to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run because they've got Terrence Shannon, who's an engineer. Matthew Meyer's just a winning player. Yep. You know, he's just, if you were going to pick one of the 5 winningest players in college basketball right now, that guy just makes winning plays. When Coleman Hawkins is giving them something productive offensively, they do defend. Like, Illinois' got a good defense. So for me, they're a team that could they catch lightning in a bottle and go on a run? Right now, according to projections, they're around a 5. That's a healthy 5. They really are. I got to tell you, I know that this is a wild take, but I would not be surprised if we see a double-digit seed in the Final Four this year. I really wouldn't. And,
who do you like?
Well, going totally off the map, I think that they're going to be able to win a tournament game. I love Oral Roberts.
So do I. So do I. Out of the Summit,
he was.
I was ready to whisper
we were
at
bugged.
the
DB. We've got the place bugged.
So
John.
do I, John. They have one of the best assist to turnover ratios. They have such a good defense, and Max Asmus is one of the best players in college basketball.
Yeah, he is, and that experience matters. You know, it in recent Loyola Chicago runs, when they found ways to win in the NCAA tournament, I think that translates. And right now, Oral Roberts is the projected 12. Like, they are not a 13 or 14 or 15 coming out of nowhere. How many times do we see the 12 over the 5? I love that potential. And you just said it with Asmus. You got to have a bucket. He is that. And they take care of the basketball. That leads you to success typically that time of year. So I'm high on Oral Roberts. You asked me if I was going to take a team to win it all, to pour it all on. I'm going to go with Houston because I think there's something to be said about the storybook. Kelvin Sampson's gotten them there. He got them there 2 years ago. Could you imagine Houston making it to the Final Four in their home city? Could you imagine that crowd at NRG Stadium? I mean, you'd have people coming out of the woodwork left and right. Houston's not typically the basketball city or whatnot. It wouldn't matter. It's the Final Four, gentlemen. So I think that's a team. I said Alabama makes me comfortable, but at the window, man, you'd be mistaken to not sprinkle some on Houston just because their toughness level. Marcus Sasser, Jamal Shed, and guys, Jarris Walker is big time. That kid is special. If he was playing at a Duke or a Kentucky, we'd be talking about him every single day right now. That's how good he is.
I'm going to take UCLA begrudgingly.
See, I like UCLA
just because
as well.
I like the experience in the backcourt, and I like Jaime Jaquez. Their inconsistency bugs me a smidge, but they still only have the 4 losses, but they're all against quad 1 teams. So that gives me a little pause. Let me ask you about.
I like that pick. The other one is Iowa State. People are sleeping on them because of their name, but they shouldn't be.
Let me ask you about, because I wanted to say Gonzaga, but then I listened and you hit the nail on the head because I don't like this about them. I don't love their toughness. I could see Shed just wearing Drew Timme out because he'll touch and clutch and try to bully Strother, guys like that. What did I miss, or what did we miss on Hickman's emergence coming out of high school versus kind of what he's been in Spokane?
I don't know if we missed anything as much as he just hasn't had it all come together the way that people thought he would. I think Mark Few is the magician. He gets guys in the lab. He makes them better players. And I just think this particular test case, it came back negative. It just hasn't worked, for them. And I would say, Damon, you almost saw that they lacked, I don't want to say confidence, but basically confidence when they brought in Malachi Smith. The writing's on the wall sometimes.
Yeah.
You're bringing in Malachi Smith? Well, why are you bringing in Malachi Smith? I mean, good player and all. He's going to help you, but who's going to be the point guard? Yeah. That, to me, created more questions. The other thing is you can't fully expect to go from Jalen Suggs to Andrew Nembhard to another elite-level NBA guard. And that's just it. They haven't had that. Drew Timme needs that around him. If Julian Strother's not scoring on the wing, they just don't have enough.
Yeah, bogged down.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. Here's the thing. As much as they can light it up offensively, remember, they beat Alabama. They scored 100 on them. They scored 100 on them, but they've been soft this year. And that's just it. When you could score the ball to a great degree. And this is actually a thing that I worry about with like Xavier a little bit. Because I think Sean Miller's intense, but at some point you've got to dig in and get physical with the team and say, we're not going to be denied. And to me, Gonzaga's issue this year is like on Saturday night, the game was hanging in the balance. Aiden Mahaney took it from him.
Yeah.
Randy Bennett just took that game. That's not typical of Gonzaga. So no, I don't think so. I'm out on them. I'm not buying their stock come March.
There is some stock that I'm buying, and it comes in the Big East. Now, another team that I like to win it all, DB will like this pick, is Indiana. I think they're really set up well.
Especially if Hood Schifino continues to play well.
Exactly. But one of my so-called 5 or lower teams has to be Creighton, right? Like that's where.
Although I think they're going to get to a 5.
But still 5 still counts for that.
I think
threshold.
they'll get to a 5.
But Creighton would be my team. And John, you were the one that said it 2 weeks ago that Creighton was on a surge, and not a lot of people saw it. But you are somebody that covers the Big East like it's the back of your hand. You have 5 teams now in the top 25 out of the Big East. Marquette makes it a top 10, and they were preseason ranked 9th to open the year to come out of the Big East. With everything that you're seeing inside of this conference, do you think that they have stepped up to being the second best college basketball conference, especially this year?
Well, I think that the top of the Big Ten, the top of the Big East is second best when you look at all conferences right now. No question about it. Where the Big East this year is a little bit off is that the bottom is pretty clear. I mean, and I would say that sometimes when you have a bottom, it's a good thing for your league because it means that the top can accumulate victories and keep building up real estate and building it up and getting ranked. Not taking anything away from those teams. I think when you look at conferences, the depth of the Big Ten, the fact that they could get 8 or 9 teams in the NCAA tournament is my reservation on that, Andrew, because the Big East is staring at 5, maybe 6. Seton Hall is right on the bubble. They have a big opportunity tomorrow night against Creighton. But yeah, there's an argument. I think that the Big East is a top 3 league right now because, yeah, you've got the second most teams in the top 25. And here's the thing. A rant on the Big East for a moment. Back in December, people were saying Big East, down year, huge step back, disappointing, this, that. If this is disappointing and they've got 5 teams in the top 25, second most in America, that's not bad. I mean, that's pretty special. And I think the biggest thing with the Big East is not that they've got the 5 ranked teams. It's the fact that they've got 5 ranked teams and none of them are named Villanova, St. John's, or Georgetown. The traditional brands of this conference are actually bringing the conference down currently. That can't continue. Villanova gets a pass. Georgetown and St. John's do not. Changes need to be made because the conference can't hit its full ceiling without those schools doing their part. But back to this league. I love Marquette. They've won 13 of their last 15 games. They've won 10 of their last 11. The only loss is to Xavier. Tyler Kolek's got 189 assists in 24 basketball games. That's absolutely absurd. If Marquette beats UConn tonight, bold prediction, if Marquette beats Connecticut tonight in Hartford, Marquette is going to win the Big East regular season championship. I think that this is a massive game. If they lose the game, it'll be a real race. If they win this game in Hartford tonight, I think they're going to find a way to the regular season crown. Xavier's dealing with the Zach Fremantle injury. They've dealt with it well. UConn, they need to win tonight. They need to reassert themselves. As much as Marquette's in that pursuit for the title, UConn's got to show everybody that they're still legit. Well, they need Adama Sanogo to play a big boy game, and they got to get physical with Marquette. Creighton is the team that's playing the best basketball in the conference currently. They've won 6 in a row. They've got balance. That starting 5 I'd put up with anybody. And guys, Ed Cooley's got a team that's fit to win in March because Bryce Hopkins is a man. Noah Locke and Devin Carter have gotten better. And if Jared Bynum hits his stride, watch out. So this league's loaded at the top, more loaded than it's been. More loaded than it's been in recent years, like at the top. So I'm impressed with this league. And more than anything, I'm impressed with the fact that it's overcome a lot of the early takes and narratives. Sometimes when the ACC gets stuck in a hole, guys, they never dig out of it. They really don't. The Big East did. And they did it in a big way. And they've put themselves in a position to say, yes, the conference is having a quality year. The bottom is clear. The bottom's clear. There's going to be some programs that have to make some changes. But, man, for a top 5 in this league, I'd put that top 5 up against anybody.
Yeah, speaking of change, I could see Ed Cooley changing addresses and going to Georgetown.
Yeah, we talked about that
I'm on
week.
that, John Fanta. I am on Ed Cooley to Georgetown. But let me ask you this, because you mentioned his name, and Tyler Kolek, and I think he's fantastic. And there's another guy, when you reference Xavier, that didn't come up by name, that Creighton found a way to neutralize, and I absolutely think it was the difference in the game because he only had 1 basket. But Sule Boom has a chance to be all-conference in 3 different conferences in varying degrees. He was all-conference at San Francisco. He did it at UTEP in Conference USA. He could do it again in the Big East. Kolek or Boom, who are you taking, John Fanta?
Yeah, today I'm giving the lean to Kolek.
Takes good care of the ball, doesn't he?
I'm giving the lead to Kolek. He's just played so absurdly well over the last 6-7 games. I mean, he's averaging close to 20 points over the last 3 weeks of basketball. We know what he's doing in the assist column. I mean, to total 189 assists to just over 50 turnovers.
Yeah.
That's absurd. Those are absurd numbers. And, of course, he's got to set up Cam Jones and Omax Prosper and Oso Ighodaro, David Joplin. But for me, he sets them up for success. You're not getting that many assists unless you're making the right play. And he makes the right play. In ball screen situations, he's close to impossible to guard right now. They are that dangerous. I mean, somebody asked me who out of this league could make it to the Final Four, and I said to them the other day, I think it's Marquette, and they said, "Are you crazy?" I said, no. No, I'm not crazy because that team, I mean, I am crazy, but that team's a top 5 offense in college basketball. The Golden Eagles are going to have pressure on them in March. let's face it, they haven't won an NCAA tournament game in a decade. They're too talented for that streak to continue.
John, we could talk to you for hours. We appreciate your time this morning, man, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, John. That's John Fanta, Fox College Hoops broadcaster and reporter. We are talking to Brendan Quinn from The Athletic next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the show, 888-638-4876. If you'd like to get involved, it's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hale Varsity Club. And before we get to our next guest, we're waiting on Brendan Quinn to give us a call back. I want to take a moment and tell you about Dingman's. Dingman's Collision Center, 4 locations throughout the metro area, along with that standalone mechanical shop at 120th and Maple. They do basically everything over at Dingman's that involves maybe an issue on your car or an upgrade on your car. They work on all makes and models, from Fords to Teslas. If you have a Tesla, that's pretty sick because those cars can drive themselves. And I don't know if I'd really trust it because that could happen. But if that does happen, maybe you hit a pole, maybe you back into fire extinguisher. What am I thinking?
A fire hydrant.
A fire hydrant. Maybe there's a fire extinguisher on the sidewalk. Who knows? Take your car over to Dingman's. They've been in the business for over 25 years.
You see that?
Yep. And I gave you Nux just because of it. Family owned, family run local business. I know DB needs an oil change, and you're set
Thursday
up to
at
go,
11.
right?
Thursday at 11.
So he'll be over at Dingman's. Maybe go over there, say hello, and give Dingman some love. We love Dingman's on the show.
I think I'm going to have him take a look at my back left tire, too. I think I have a slow leak. That's the same one that I've been refilling about every 8 days. I thought it was the temp because it was really cold.
Come to find out, I went over this spike strip the other day.
Yeah, but it's never gone lower than 32 PSIs.
Oh, okay.
But I catch it in time. You know, I let the light stay on for a couple days.
Sometimes my car does that too, and I fill them up, and then they're good.
Yeah, but I keep having to do the same left tire.
But you're probably right then. Now, we just got done speaking with John Fanta. If you missed that interview, you got to go back and listen. Go to your favorite Spotify, Apple podcast, which is Hale Varsity Radio. Go check out that podcast at the end of the show. It's fantastic. But something that I wanted to add to that point, because we were talking AP top 25, and it's interesting because after the NCAA came out and released the top 25, Purdue ranked at number 1 still, had that loss to Indiana, which I don't think they deserved to move because that was such a competitive basketball game. Houston had 2, but then
they're still 9-2 against quad 1 teams.
Right. But Bama 20-3 at 3rd in the nation right now. And that was John Fanta's team to win, and that kind of caught us both off guard. But
6-3 against quad 1 teams, but they are running roughshod.
Right?
They are running roughshod in the Big E, or excuse me, in the SEC. But I just don't see. For some reason, I just don't trust them.
There are 2 teams.
A lot of it is their shot selection, but they're not as loosey-goosey as they have been in the past.
There are 2 teams that are. You never know what you're going to get on any given night, and that's Texas and Kansas. And we saw both of them play last night.
I like Kansas. I said this earlier last year that I liked Kansas, and it pains me a little, right? Because I'm not a rock chalk guy, but I think Self is obviously top 4 or 5 in the country. And last year, I just felt like they were such a hard team to prepare for because they won like 6 or 7 different ways. Turns out they end up cutting down the nets. I don't know how many people saw that coming, but this year, it's so predicated on Harris. And I just think that that's a lot of pressure. I think Jalen Wilson is fantastic, no question. But do you watch how many tough shots he makes? He makes some, like, as Micah was telling me the other night, because he likes to repeat me, tough shot taker, tough shot maker, because I say that all the time. I used to say it about Kobe. And so now, now he just mocks me. But
was Kobe good?
He was okay. He was okay.
I just don't remember him ever scoring a lot.
Took me a long time to come around to liking him. Probably 5-6 years maybe, which is quite a bit. But they don't get enough easy shots. It seems like just
right.
No, I haven't gotten into their analytics.
Their offense is. I mean, sometimes it looks
they
so discombobulated.
They make some tough shots, and Grady Dick has kind of hit until last night. He'd kind of hit that little freshman lull. The last 7-8 games, it kind of reminded me of, because I watched them almost all night last night, was Nebraska women's basketball with Jazz Shelley. They had a late fourth quarter meltdown again, similar to what they had against
24
Michigan State.
turnovers.
Yeah,
12 or something in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they had 4 in 48 seconds.
Yeah.
4 turnovers.
And it turned into points.
48 seconds. But here's the funny thing. Remember, and I thought of you right away when I saw the graphic, because we talked about once Hybe got hurt and then her coming back, could Jazz Shelley kind of shoulder the offensive load because it's not in her nature, right? Well, since January, she only had 1 double-digit game in scoring, and it was 10. And in a handful of those games, she had 6 or less. So remember that crazy run she went on, and we're like, oh, maybe she what?
Maybe she is a scorer.
Maybe she is a scorer. Kind of tapered off in January. She almost had a double-double last night. Shoot, almost a triple-double, because I think she finished with 8 assists.
Getting other players involved.
I think she was like 12, 8, and 8 last night, something like that. But it just reminded me how tough offensive consistency is. And Nebraska shoots the 3-ball so much. Women's, like,
right.
It's not always going to be your night. But going back to the men's real quick, it's like they just make so many tough shots. And why do I like UCLA?
I liked UCLA too from the start, though, because they returned guys.
I watched them get annihilated in back-to-back and in 4 days by both Arizona then USC, and I'm like, and this was just last week. I'm like, am I missing on this team? They seem like they should be better,
and they should.
They're 17-4,
right?
But right? It doesn't seem like
you
they get a lot of runs.
Like their losses are like, ooh.
They're 3-4 in quad 1 games. They have a losing record versus quad 1 teams.
Right. When you look at their record, it's like, I don't really know. A team I do like.
Wait a minute. Were you just doing Romo?
A little bit.
I don't know, Jill. We got to stop.
I like St. Mary's.
That's a 12 in a row for them.
And I really liked it. I mean, they may have the freshman of the year on that team.
And there are some good ones in the country. There's some great freshmen.
And then my favorite.
We saw your boy last night. Were you all in on the Mitchell hype? He had another putback dunk.
Yeah, and he also had 4 points again. I'm like, what is up? What is up with this Mitchell hype? I'm not there. I'm just not there, DB. A team I do like at the bottom coming out of the Big Ten. Rutgers.
Oh, Pikel is a stud.
I am loving the way that they're playing. And as they get deep into March, this is going to be one of the scarier teams.
Well, it's not fun. It's not funny anymore. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking about playing in Piscataway and Rutgers, and I was like, apparently, Piscataway is a house of horrors. Right? I didn't see Pikel kind of being this guy. And I didn't love Ron Harper Jr.'s game. I didn't think he was in great shape. He always had that weird build, and
always had a lot of.
They
height
sometimes struggled to score. And apparently, Rutgers is for real.
Well, and they're such a veteran team. I mean, you have a 5th-year senior leading the charge. You have other veteran faces. It's guys that have played for a long time, and not everybody wants to admit it because sometimes talent can supersede age, but.
Speaking of UCLA, that would be Amari Bailey.
Right. And in this year, in this field, because we talk about how wide open it is, you almost want a little bit of structure.
These brackets are going to be hilarious.
Oh, we're talking about there were years. I mean, last year, for one, people thought Arizona was like the team.
Yeah.
And nobody thought they would ever get busted after the round of 32.
I think I took Arizona. No, I took Gonzaga.
I took Arizona.
It's one of the two.
But then there were like Iowa was a super good team last year.
Yeah.
And then they get upset by Richmond, if I'm correct.
Richmond? What? Richmond?
Which may or may not have.
Are you a Coach Carter guy? Have you seen the
worst mascots? The
Spiders? Who'd they just beat?
Nobody likes Spiders.
Was that Fordham? Who'd they? No,
Richmond?
I think Fordham beat them Sunday.
Speaking of wild teams that, watch out for Marshall. Coming out of the Sun Belt.
So Marshall will lose this week because you said that the other day with FAU before they even got in the top 25. That Monday they get ranked in the top 25 at 19
in the Sun Belt right now.
And then FAU got beat.
Colgate's another team, really good defense. So they play like Creighton defensively. They don't foul a lot.
Kiss of death, Marshall, you're in trouble because Andrew Rogers said, "Look out."
Watch out for the Thundering Herd. I'm telling you, they are 3rd in the Sun Belt right now. But guys, can this team play basketball?
My man Bojack, I put out a Twitter poll. Who's the most ostracized? Medium well done, medium rare, rare. I let people eat their steak however they like because I'm not an over officious jerk and they're my guests.
I'm a jerk.
Hey, no kidding, Bojack. I'm talking about when they're not in your presence, bud.
Right. You know who's in our presence next? Joel Lorenzi.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
1:24 to go. Nemhard to the bucket. Up and in. Dixon pump, double pump, block. Dixon gets it back. 2 to shoot. Lets it go. And out.
Welcome back to the show. As we wind this thing down, we will be talking to Joel Lorenzi, as we do every Tuesday. He's the Creighton beat writer for the Omaha World Herald. It's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's Damon Benning, sliding back into the screen right now.
I don't have to, do I?
Oh, no, you don't. You can stand. I mean,
I
if you
can still do the show standing.
Well, you can. You know what, DB? You can be whoever you want to be.
You can have whatever you like. Are you a TI guy?
Oh, yeah.
Joel, are you a TI guy?
No, I'm a foot young to have enjoyed T.I.'s prom.
Joel, I'm gonna stop asking you off the cuff questions, man, because you're one of those pitchers that can throw that curveball, man. But I'm gonna keep trying to hit it, man. How you doing this morning?
I'm all right. I've been up for like a good hour.
Whoa!
What?
Yeah.
Joel, you're a new man.
It's tired around here.
You're a brand new man, according to Brooks and Dunn. I'm sure you're not much of a country guy.
We're just doing
I
it.
don't know who the hell that is.
You weren't up late last night watching like Thunder Warriors or Bucks Blazers? None of that?
I was. I caught that Bucks Blazers, but I have to wake up on it. I don't know.
Let me ask you something. Can OKC win with Giddey not scoring the ball better?
No.
What? I don't know if we should be thinking about them winning. I don't know if that's the question we should be asking.
Well, they're close. I kind of like them on the come the next couple of years, and they got great cap space.
Next couple of years, I agree, but I don't. Even though they're creeping up on that picture, everybody is. All the records are so close. Like the teams that feel like they're in contention probably really aren't. Can
ISO guy play with Kyrie?
Yeah, I like them. I like the move. If I'm being honest, maybe not for this year because I think they got to fill out the roster more. But it'll be fun to see how they play together, and I think it raises their ceiling. Man, he needed a bona fide second option. Man, he couldn't. I mean, he could only do so much in that run last year when he carried that team. Like a guy like that, I thought that run was real, like LeBron-esque. Looking at his first stint with the Cavs. And, LeBron needs a crazy second option, man. I mean, everybody does.
Would Joel Lorenzi with Mark Cuban's money pay Kyrie Irving $41 million a year?
Yeah, I say, dude. I mean, I know he's problematic and he's not the most reliable employee, right? But I think you got to just make that bet, especially if you're mad. But if you want to keep Luka, you want to take a gamble. I mean, you have to take a gamble like that if you want to aim at a championship. Because I think the direction they were in was pretty stagnant, man. And they needed to. I wouldn't call it a splash move, but Luka needed a second option to raise the ceiling. They already whiffed on Jeff Brunson. It was like, what do you have to lose?
Joel, let's talk Creighton now. After debuting at number 9 in the AP preseason poll, the team is finally back in the AP top 25. If you had to attribute this team's success to one person or thing over this surge, is it Kalkbrenner? Is it the defense? Who or what would get the credit?
Yeah, I think overall, if there has to be one person to point to, it has to be Kalkbrenner, right? They couldn't win without him. That's for sure. With him, it's not even just one of those things like, well, yeah, he's your best player. I think it's because the things he does that unlock so much. I mean, on defense, he's there to catch guys' mistakes once the perimeter is breached. Offense, his gravity as a roller and screener, everything. It opens lanes. It opens more threes. It just does so much and unlocks so much for both ends that it's clearly why he's their best player. I mean, certain guys might pop off a certain night, like Trey Alexander was crazy the other night. Kaluma's had his moments, but Ryan Kalkbrenner is inevitable. Every game, you know what you're going to get from him. So yeah, I say Kalkbrenner.
So, is there a difference? Would you entertain a debate, and maybe you haven't maybe you won't because we saw what Creighton was like without Kalkbrenner. But would you entertain most valuable from most important or integral to long-term success if I introduce Trey Alexander into the discussion?
You're asking who would I call?
Are they still the same person, or would you have a sit down and try to differentiate between the two adjectives of valuable and important?
I was really important. I take Kalkbrenner is
for both
most valuable and the most important. Like I said, he just does so much. Honestly, I thought he was underrated going into the season in the national landscape, and I think he still is. I think while Sule Boom has a really good case for Big East Player of the Year, because they are for the first seed and he's been phenomenal this year. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is really creeping up on the case. Should close out the rest of their schedule the way they should.
You know, Joel, we'll keep it with Trey Alexander here because you wrote that piece a couple of weeks ago, and he's absolutely thriving in wins this year. 14 points per game, over 50% from the field in those wins. I even think I heard on the broadcast the guys even tossing around the idea of Trey being the one from this team out of anyone to play at the next level. So how much credit do you think Trey realistically gets from fans, though, this season? Like, are people really realizing how much he's helping the team? Should he be getting more love?
Yeah, I think so. And I agree. I kind of leaned over to Magic Marinas and mentioned that after the game. Like, there was so many shouts at that game. And then it felt like as it went on, they showed up for, Cam Whitmore, Arthur Kaluma, and it feels like they probably left with an impression of Trey Alexander if they already came with one.
Yeah.
So yeah, people, not just fans, but scouts are recognizing him. I mean, I saw him on a mock draft entering the season, like top 45 or something like that. So the momentum behind Trey Alexander is real, and everybody gets that. I mean, obviously, it's different with a guy like Kaluma because he's kind of more to the game, and some of the things he does aren't so flashy. But Trey Alexander, the way he gets it, kind of too hard to ignore, right? Like the 32 piece against DePaul, 27 against Nova. Like you watch a dude like that on his best nights, and it's hard to ignore how important he is.
It's interesting to hear you reference Sule Boom. I asked John Fanta earlier because I think he's really, really good, and I love the reverence that you gave him because I do think he's in the Player of the Year discussion. I think it's a 4-horse race at this point, and Boom is in the discussion. Would you take Kolak from Marquette or Boom from Xavier right now?
Man, Kolak has been really, really, really good. If we're talking Big East Player of the Year, I have to go Boom just because the kind of crutch he's been for them. But Kolak, he got a lot of momentum right now. I think Marquette is the best team in the Big East right now, or has the best case at least to win the Big East. And so if we're using that line to go best player on the best team, and Marquette closes the schedule out there, Kolak has a good chance. But my pick would be Boom.
It's weird to see how Creighton just ate Boom up last weekend during the pink out, where he was a non-factor. How impressive was that? I know it's back a couple of games, but man, just think about what a non-factor he was for playing 35 minutes.
Yeah, and that's one thing that could probably hurt him for his case if it ends up being a close race. It was a real uncharacteristic performance. I think his lowest scoring output in 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years. And so I think what was most impressive was the adjustment from Creighton and the execution by Ryan Nembhard. I think Ryan Nembhard has a chance to be a really good college defender, with his quickness and size and just going side by side with a guard like Sule. And, Creighton saw that, Alexander picked up that first early foul on Boom, and that's a guy that they've leaned on as their best perimeter defender. And what the understanding is that there's a drop-off outside of him, maybe not to where it's a negative, but to where, okay, we want Alexander on the guy. And Ryan Nembhard did a better job probably than Alexander could have that night. I mean, he seriously chased Boom around, got through screens. Like, it was really impressive. Easily Ryan Nembhard's best game as a loser.
Got about a minute here, Joel. Currently projected as a 7 seed in the tourney, although I think DB got it right that Creighton will end up around 5. Wherever they land, how comfortable are you saying this is the year they'll make it farther than any other?
I think very comfortable. And I think they're in a good spot. If they get a 5th seed or something, it's hard to see a team that can really upset them, even though it's hard to see a team that could upset them, even with their flaws. And then if they end up being a lower seed, they're easily one of the upset favorites in the tournament. Man, I mean, their opinions are so wide range that people think they could be a Final Four team or on the 32 team. This team still is crazy.
Joel, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk again next week.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
And thank you, all of you out there listening to the show, for joining us today as well. If you missed anything, go back, check out the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Type in Hail Varsity Radio. You can find Coffee and Cream. Until tomorrow, we'll see you then.